Hello everyone. So I wanted to give you some feedback on your group work, the group work project 2 that you just handed in. What I'm calling group work. Of course, we're not really working in groups because we're all doing this virtually, but nonetheless, I wanted to give you some feedback. I graded those assignments, and I posted those assignments or posted those grades not too long ago. So here's what you're looking at in terms of our second group work activity. I just want to go through a couple of things with all of you as a class. So when I look at this, so coming back here, we of course here are looking at this pathway here. We're looking at glycolysis. So it starts at glucose and moves all the way down to pyruvate. Of course, we've already talked about that. That was from our first group work experience. But interestingly, and this is actually going back in material because we've already had exams on glycogen metabolism, but glycogen metabolism branches right off of glycolysis from glucose 6-phosphate, right? And that's what we're showing as we go in this direction. Glucose 6-phosphate will be held in equilibrium with glucose 1-phosphate by the enzyme phosphoglucomutase. And then what you're seeing here is glycogen metabolism, okay? And so let me go ahead and erase these here for us. But as we look at it this way, if we consider this portion of our key, okay, that would be glycogen synthesis. You start with glucose 1-phosphate, and you have to have UTP, and you then make UDP glucose. UDP glucose is going to be the substrate of glycogen synthase, which will then add one of those glucose molecules to glycogen, making a glycogen N+1 molecule. Now, get rid of that, okay, and go here. There we go. And with that, we are seeing glycogen breakdown. So you take glycogen N+1 and make it glycogen N, and what we do there is remove, for the most part, glucose 1-phosphate, and of course phosphorylase is the enzyme that does that. And then that glucose 1-phosphate can then be converted to glucose 6-phosphate and then converted to either glucose, or it can be used, depending on the cell, to make pyruvate in the cell. Okay? All right, now let's erase all that there. There we go. Okay, now moving forward here. So something that actually you're covering right now in class, or have covered in class just recently, would be the pentose phosphate pathway. I'm not going to have you do pentose phosphate pathway on this puzzle, but interestingly, it will start here at glucose 6-phosphate, and you can make a ribose 5-phosphate from that glucose 6-phosphate. It will also, that pathway, because we're not going over it in a lot of detail, that pathway can actually reconnect down here at these 3 carbon molecules. Okay, so again, I'm not going to have you put that on here because we didn't go over the pathway in a lot of detail, but I think it's an interesting little connection for you. Okay, now moving from then glycolysis, we have here on block 3, which we've done previously, that would be the malate aspartate shuttle, and 2 major components of the malate aspartate shuttle are, of course, going to be that oxoacetate and that malate. Now, what we did, of course, in this last group work assignment is we included then the citric acid cycle in these blocks, and also the PDC reaction. And the PDC reaction is what you're looking at right here. Okay, so pyruvate is going to be converted to acetyl-CoA, and then that's going to combine with oxoacetate to become citrate. Okay, and that's what this is showing here. Okay, get rid of all these little markings here. And then that will kind of start the cycle for us. Now, to make a connection back to the citric acid cycle and what we've talked about, this enzyme here is pyruvate carboxylase, and that can be this anaporotic process of resupplying the cell with oxoacetate. And so you can kind of hopefully see on this map, this metabolic puzzle or map, how that could be anaporotic for this. Okay, and so then of course the citric acid cycle is gonna churn and burn. I was having problems with my file for some reason. It saved all my other markings, but it didn't save this, and so let me go ahead and put this here for us. But NAD plus can be converted to NADH here. Alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase complex, it does that, and CO2 will be produced as well. Okay, I'll try and rework with the key before I post it to see if that's there, but when I started to go to make this recording, I realized, why isn't that there, even though I had put it on my original file? So anyway, all right, so one last thing here, moving down into this block 7, and this is a connection that we're making with the citric acid cycle and also electron transport chain, and that is that this enzyme here, complex 2, is succinate dehydrogenase. Okay, so I wanted to see people say, okay, well, succinate dehydrogenase is going to actually bend down and go into the electron transport chain, which in our next group work we'll go ahead and fill those details in. But succinate will become fumarate, and then of course fumarate will become malate, and the whole cycle will just keep on churning and burning. Okay, so that's just the feedback on this metabolic puzzle. Hopefully you're starting to see, okay, how all these things are integrated. Of course, when we're down in this region here, we're looking at things that are occurring in the matrix of the mitochondria, and our boundary here for the matrix of the mitochondria, or the mitochondrial membranes, are right here, right? These lines that I'm representing here and here. Okay. Now, in terms of feedback on point values, I didn't take many points off for really anyone. I think the most points I took off was 2 points for completed group work assignments. So those were taken off, though. There was 3 primary reasons I took points off. One of them was that there were some people that did not show like glycogen breakdown or glycogen synthesis, one or the other. They showed one of them, but not the other one. So I took some points off for that. And the pyruvate, I'm sorry. The other place where people lost points is that they would come down here with pyruvate. Wait a minute. There we go. And pyruvate would be converted to, they did it like this. They go pyruvate to acetyl-CoA, and then acetyl-CoA to citrate, and they wouldn't show the connection. They didn't even show this, okay, with oxoacetate. So acetyl-CoA can't become citrate without oxoacetate, and the cycle can't start with oxoacetate, so I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Okay, and then finally the last thing would be like missing connections. For instance, a lot of people just said, well, this goes here, okay, instead of making that connection to complex 2 or some other connection, and there was a variety of connections that people missed, so I won't go through all those, but those were the details. Most people lost a point. If you lost 2, then there was some more significant problems, and I only took points off really to just indicate to you that, oh, you really need to look at the key, okay, and because I want you to be conversant with the integration and metabolism. Okay, all right, so if you have any questions on those things, please let me know.